So I've got about 30 minutes. I'm hopefully going to get through about a dozen sort of apps with you. By all means, send me a message on Twitter afterwards. I'll see you there, and I'll give email addresses if you want details of the apps I'm sharing, because I'm doing it as a live session. It's not sort of anything where you're going to be able to have a PowerPoint, anything like that. It is me doing this live. So fingers crossed, like with everything sort of in life, you never know what's going to happen when you do things live. So off we go then. The first app I'm going to show you is this one here, Maldive, or Maldive if we're being posh. And Maldive is an example of a Pic Collage app. There's 1,000,001 of these Pic Collage apps available, Pic Collage probably being the most famous. And it doesn't matter which one you use. They tend to often be free, and they have all of these different templates. Now, I think apps like this get completely underused in education. I'm sure lots of us probably have an app like this on our phone or our tablets, but we probably just make a little bunny picture collage to put on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it might be. But think about how you can use a really basic app like this to make the curriculum accessible for your pupils. So think, for example, maybe you've been doing a simple instructional lesson. Maybe you've been doing something like planting seeds. Not all children are going to be able to write about that in detail in text. But what about picking just something like the 4 squares, and they've got to put the 4 pictures in to sort of show the order in which you did things there? Or what about sort of actually giving a point and a purpose to that internet research? I go to so many different schools, and you see on the planning, use the internet to research the Romans, use the internet to research Vikings, use the internet to research space. And I always say, what's a ... But what about having something like your learning objective? Use the internet to research the Victorians and to create a Maldive Pic Collage to show what you consider to be the 4 most important inventions of the Victorian era. Suddenly there's a point and a purpose to your research. Or what about when you're going out and about sort of on school trips? My pet hate is children sort of Googling something that they were stood in front of just a week beforehand. So get the children out. I say to my staff all the time, if you're going out, get the risk assessments packed, get the inhalers packed, but get the iPads packed as well. We want the kids actually sort of taking photos sort of live. Or what about sort of for our youngest sort of children? Just photograph maybe the pictures of a big book. They might be doing the 3 Little Pigs or whatever it might be. Think about from a sequencing and a chronology point of view of just, again, the children sort of sorting these into order. Or if I go live now sort of onto this one, you can see, I love the fact that these devices are very intuitive. Even if a child can't read tap here, I'm sure they're going to realize that the tap here. You've then got 2 choices, album, camera. If I turn the camera on now, we should get you lot. But imagine that was sort of around school. We could be going like around school and thinking, what shapes can I see? What colors? Or, I've got that one at the back there. I can see the door there. Or what about sort of the screens that's sort of down at the front? So, that could be absolutely sort of anything you do with younger children going around school. Can we find red things around school? Can we find circles? Can we find squares? It can be absolutely anything. And of course, you can put a bit of text on there as well. It might be just basic. It might just be 1, 2, 3, 4. But of course, with some children, you could be putting labels on there. So with all of these apps that I'm going to show you to do, you are still the most powerful part. Yes, technology is brilliant. It can do some great things. And there's going to be some really wow apps you're going to see. That's not really a wow app, but it might be wow in the sense that, I've never thought about using it in that way. It's not that it's an all singing, all dancing app. It's just making us think outside the box. We've done things like that for years, haven't we, where we'd cut up little bits of paper and have them in an envelope and sort them. What about in a science lesson, for example? Maybe you're doing something like vertebrates and invertebrates there. So what about sort of saying to the children, I want you to make a Maldive Pic Collage where on the top row, I want you to find 3 vertebrates, and on the bottom row, 3 invertebrates, or, 3 animals that fly, 3 animals that don't fly. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want. But I don't think that apps like that get used to anywhere near their full potential. We simply use them to make Pic Collages, and we've got to think about actually how we can do some wonderful things with a completely basic and a completely free app. Moving on to the next one, also free. I've tried to put as much free content as I can. Not everything I'm going to show you is free, but these first 2 are completely free. So the next one's called Skitch. Think witch, but Skitch, S-K-I-T-C-H. Completely free. Skitch allows you to annotate live over the top of a photograph. So if I just go into this folder here and maybe pick a picture like that. So again, I like apps that are completely simple to use. Skitch basically has two buttons. So you've got a button in the bottom left-hand corner that when I press that button, I get a choice of colors and I get a choice of sizes. Button in the bottom right-hand corner gives me some tools. To be honest, the only two tools I tend to use are the arrow and the text. But again, think about all the wonderful ways that you could use this really simple app with children of all ages. So again, it's a brilliant one when you're going out and about on something like a school trip. I live close to Newcastle in the northeast of England. For those of you that sort of know that part of the world, we're famous for our river, all of the bridges that cross the River Tyne. Think about for the children that are out and about on a school trip, they take a photograph, and then suddenly they're annotating, they're putting arrows to show which bridge is the Tyne Bridge and which bridge is the Swing Bridge and so on. We go to visit a castle. They haven't suddenly got the same worksheet that we got out in 1989 where it's got like arrows sort of drawn to it and they're choosing the words. They're taking the photographs themselves. They're showing the different features of castles. Or it could be something like a piece of text where you photographed a page from the book, but the child's got to show where's the adverbs, where's the nouns, whatever it might be. So again, we are the powerful bit. We still need to think about where it comes into our planning, where it fits into our curriculum, but a beautifully simple app. And as well, you would talk to the children, this is where things like word processing skills are transferable. If you look at that picture and you're going to put some annotations on there, probably yellow is not going to be the best choice of colors to pick. So those are the type of skills we want to be saying to children that maybe, sort of for this one, maybe something like a pink arrow might show up a bit better. And then it's really simple. I'm just going to draw from tail to point. So if I wanted to annotate the features, I literally go like that. And now I want to put some text on there. I touch in the bottom right-hand corner where the arrow is, and I'm going to change that to text. So even with something like a year one child, there's no insert text box or anything stupid like that. I just touch on the screen where I want it to be. I touch on the screen there, and I can start to label like things like tree. And obviously I could change the size of the text and stuff at the bottom if you want that a bit bigger and smaller and so on. If I want to annotate something else, sort of on there, again, I could sort of change the color if I wanted to. I would just go back to the arrow, and I could sort of show some different features on there. And as well, remember, in terms of accessibility, not all children are necessarily going to be able to type, whether it be because of age, whether it be because of SEND, whether it be because they've got English as an additional language. So remember, in terms of accessibility, you've got that microphone button there next to the space bar. So there, that is voice to text. Now we're in a big sort of auditorium. I've got a very strong northeast accent. So if it can manage me, I'm sure I can manage lots of your pupils. So let's give this a go. Again, live demonstration, but let's give it a go. Wooden fence. So, that accessibility tool, that is not a tool on Skitch. That is something that is available as soon as that keyboard comes up on any app. So if you're something like Maldives, again, they could have done the text on Maldives by just actually using voice to text and putting labels on there and so on. I think something like voice to text is a tool that we do have to utilize far more. And what I tend to find that people concentrate on, they go, I got that word wrong. Let's concentrate on the 90–95% that it's getting correct. We're talking about children here who, if you left them independently, would probably write a row of S's on a page. Or suddenly, they normally have a teaching assistant with them one-to-one, but that teaching assistant's been pulled to cover another class, or they're sick that day, and you're thinking, how the heck am I going to teach the other 29 children when little Bobby normally needs that support? We need to be using these type of tools more readily to give children a voice, to give them access to the curriculum. Okay, the next one is a paid app, but it is one of my favorite apps. It's called Pixomatic, P-I-X-O-Matic, Pixomatic. Now, in recent years, we're probably all familiar with the term Photoshop. We sort of tend to say, is that image real or has it been Photoshopped? It's almost become sort of like a generic word for like a photograph that's not real. Now, Photoshop itself by Adobe, great bit of software, but it's quite complicated to use. You wouldn't use it in a primary classroom necessarily. But I discovered Pixomatic a couple of years ago, and it sort of does that Photoshoppy type idea of cutting something from one picture and sticking it onto another in a more childlike way, in a more teacher-friendly way, because let's be honest, most of us are not IT experts at doing all of these things. So how would I use this type of thing? Well, it can either be as a teacher tool, as a real good sort of stimulus to a lesson, or it can be the children doing it. So if, for example, I was reading a story like Horrid Henry, that's just an image of Horrid Henry I found online. It might look a little bit complicated with all these buttons at the bottom, but actually nice and easily, the only one you're going to need is this cut button, the first one here at the bottom. So I touch on the cut button. You've got a brush there. I would generally have it about a quarter of the way along. It doesn't matter. But remember the automatic bit. It's almost like automatic. So I don't have to be really precise here. All I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a red line roughly around the outside of Horrid Henry. Taking me probably, what, 10 seconds at most to do that. Oh, just got to make sure it's joined up. I then press on Next in the top right-hand corner. And you can see the app has guessed what it is that I want to cut out. Basically, anything that's gone red is now going to be cut out. So if I press Apply in the top right-hand corner, you can see I've now got like a dotted line going around the outside. It's almost like getting your scissors going, I want to cut that bit out. So now in the bottom right-hand corner, press the Add button. Add a background, add the foreground. Well, I'm going to change the background. What about if Horrid Henry is visiting my school? So there, so if Horrid Henry is visiting my school, if I go into this training folder, this is where I'm realizing I need to tidy my iPad up. So this is my school, this is Lanchester and County Durham, so let's have Horrid Henry on the playground. So now suddenly Horrid Henry has visited my school. I can pinch and sort of zoom with that character there. You've got World Book Day coming up in a few weeks' time. Think about this. Last year, children chose their favorite book characters. We took photographs around schools, or in the library, in the school hall, on the playground. We had like the BFG sort of on the yard, and then we added filters to make it look like a Quentin Blake illustration sort of, and so on. So I'm going to introduce you to a term now. We're going to get down with the kids, called app smashing. App smashing. App smashing is a technique of combining 2 or more apps to get the end result. So if I save that image, yeah, you know, it's good. Horrid Henry's on my school playground. But I often talk about how can we go from being good to being great. Apps on their own can be good. Apps, when smashed together, combined together, can be great. So what about a sort of simple technique? If I go into my photos, there's that picture of Horrid Henry. If I just go into the filters, and change this to maybe a black and white image. That's on there. Save that. And what about if I now go back into something like Maldives, which we've seen before? Pick that one there. Don't want that picture. Move that one. Pick this picture of Horrid Henry. And now if I just put like a little bit of basic text on there, and I maybe just put like playground cam 1, 4:42 a.m. Put that in maybe a black font, maybe something that looks a bit more like that. You get the idea, sort of. I put that maybe in that corner, sort of down there, and I was to save that. You know, I was probably spending a little more time in doing it, but imagine your children sort of coming into school the next day and stuff like that, and you make out, I checked the CCTV camera overnight, we had a visitor in our school playground, particularly the likes of year 1, year 2. I love sort of teaching Key Stage 1, because they're the ones that, they get it a bit, but they still believe you, you know, so to them, like, they're actually hooked in that Horrid Henry was walking across the playground. But let's do another app smash using that same image. So this next app is a really great free app again. It's called UNewsEd. UNewsEd. So on UNewsEd, legally they can't sort of call it like BBC News, but for those of you who are from the UK or know what BBC News looks like, to me that looks like BBC News, doesn't it? It's almost like this news story is on the BBC News channel. So I press the big Add button and I choose the photo. So if I choose that photo that we made of Horrid Henry, that goes in there. And then you've got the sort of the headline and there's the subheading there. I'm just going to try and turn my iPad without knocking everything off. So Horrid, apologies if I make any typos here, Horrid Henry spotted in Durham, pupils told to stay indoors, and so on. I then just press the big tick there, save that to my photos, and that is now saved into my camera roll. Again, think about what you would do with that image now. Are you going to tweet that out and stuff like that? Are you going to pretend again to maybe something like a Key Stage 1 class, oh, look, it's even made the news there. Or if you've got like a screenshot in your entrance hall, even just the photographs of your school trip or whatever it might be as you go along, you know, just that little bit of app smashing of getting the kids maybe to, you know, to put a headline on and where it was and so on. I call it adding value to videos and fantastic photos. I think, you know, we take so many photographs, we shoot so much video footage in schools now, but do we let the children manipulate the images them off? You know, we need to do a bit more than just point and click now. That's not going to stimulate children just doing like what you're all doing now, sort of shooting, like, you know, clicking away at me, you know. How can you do that a little bit more? Download that app, YouNewsEd, you know, rather when you're putting on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it might be, put, you know, sort of whatever your name is and stuff like that. I met a gentleman from Malmo over there and stuff like that. You could do like YouNewsEd, you know, Sweden comes to BETT show and stuff like that, and have that in there. Just something that would take you 30 seconds. I bet in terms of your followers would engage with that far more than just a normal picture that you put on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it might be. It's exactly the same for the children. It's exactly the same for your parents, for your school community. So app smashing. Apps on their own can be good. Apps smashed together can be great. And that a second app can be just something as simple as going into the photos and changing a filter. It doesn't need to be anything sort of particularly complicated. What about from a video point of view? There is lots of topics that we study in school where video footage exists. But that video footage is not 4K, HD, all the things that we have in 2020. Think about something like Neil Armstrong being the first man walking on the moon, Neville Chamberlain announcing the outbreak of World War II, whatever it might be. There is little bits of basic video footage that exists of those events in history. So if you're going to get the children to recreate that, it needs to look like 1939. It needs to look like 1969. It's no good at being all shiny 4K HD. So an absolutely brilliant app is called 8mm, 8mm, because that was the type of sort of like cine cameras I used to have sort of back then. So on 8mm, all it does, it changes the sort of the camera there. I've got that sort of black and white filter. There's nothing more to it now than I press that red button to start recording. You've all given me photographic permission, I promise, sort of in there. Now, this is where as a man, I'm going to struggle to multitask. But can you see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's like a black and cream button. Now, any of those that are about the same age as me, you'll remember going to the sort of the pictures, the cinema, and the picture used to flicker. So if I now sort of move that button there, can you see how it's like adding the authentic sort of flicker to that as well? You know, you're actually getting that sort of bit sort of flicker into there. I just press that red button, and that is instantly saved in my camera roll sort of there now. You know, there's you lot sort of actually sort of in there. There is nothing more complicated to it than literally red to record, red to stop. I'm sorry, if you've got teachers in your school that think that's too complicated for them, it's time to give them that P45 and say, bye-bye, teaching's not for you anymore now. Because, you know, what I am showing you today, think what, you know, I'm halfway more through the session. I'd like to think that there is nothing that no single teacher in education anywhere could put up their hand and go, I can't do that, you know. It's just about knowing what's out there and actually overcoming that fear to give it a go. What about green screen technology? Again, you know, it was something that I sort of used in the very early days when I started Animate, Educate, my company. And back then, you know, getting all the chroma levels, I had to turn up with full lighting rigs at school and everything else. Nowadays, green screen technology is an absolute doddle to do in schools. And again, we need to get past that thinking that you need to be a Hollywood movie director to do green screen. There is only one green screen app I would recommend. It's called Green Screen by Doing. I think that's about $2.99, but it is absolutely brilliant. In terms of the other equipment, probably the bit that puts people off is the green screen itself. Now, a green screen is not expensive. You'll pick up a decent green screen online, 30, 40, 50 pound. But you don't even need to do that. You know, again, I'll turn to my Swedish sort of friend there. Your best export is IKEA. You can go to IKEA, £3. You can pick up a green shower curtain at IKEA. It works as a brilliant green screen. You can like hook it over the top of your whiteboard, whatever it might be there. Green backing paper works absolutely fine as a green screen too. And also, we need to remember that I think when it comes to green screen, we always think people. We always think like, oh, let's do the weather report and stuff like that. But actually, some of the best green screen that I do is not always with human beings. Get something like a pizza box, an old cereal box, paint it green. I used to say get some green drinking straws, but I think let's all be good and save plastic now. So go to your local garden centre, you can get like green garden canes, or just get, some wooden dowling and paint it green. You can then like sort of get like little characters, you could just print them out, laminate them, and so for younger children, they could be telling the story of a traditional tale, whatever it might be, with like characters on sticks. It doesn't always have to be sort of human beings. But let's have a look at how simple green screen technology can be. So I press that add button in the top corner. I want to add some content in. Now, if I was doing this in the classroom, I would just use a normal camera app. I would just use a normal camera app, either take a photograph of a child or to video a child in front of an actual green screen, a green cloth, whatever it might be. But for this demonstration, I've got a couple of pictures already in there. So I go create a new project. And I often compare sort of green screen technology to a little bit like making a sandwich. It's all about layers. You do things in different layers. So if you think here, we've got our different layers almost of our sandwich there. So I need to add in, with the add button on the far side there on this layer, I need to add in my first layer. And my first layer is going to be just a photograph I've taken of a child in front of a green background. So if I go into my photos, and where's that training folder? We've got a little child here, so this was with a year 2 class. They were doing superheroes. It's great green screen if you have that dressy up to you, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be a child that you videoed in front of a green screen, talking about the pyramids, whatever it might sort of be. It would have been exactly the same if I'd went add videos as add image. So I press done. And you'll notice that the green part's gone transparent. So to this child, it looks like a black background. It's not actually black, it's just removed the green. We need to add something behind. So now I go on to the second layer. It's a bit like, putting your butter or your cheese or whatever in your sandwich now. So I go on to the second layer. And I could add video behind image. It can be whatever combination you want. But I'm just going to go with image and image. So I go to photos again. And I go to that 808 training folder, if I can find it. Definitely learned a lesson at myself. I need to tidy up my iPad and have less folders in there. 808 training. Okay, what about maybe Batman's in New York? So there. So suddenly, as instantly as that, I've added in those photos. What about just tidying it up a little bit though? You'll notice that background image is not particularly clear. That's because it's trying to take the what's called the chroma, the green out of there as well. So if I just knock that off there, you can see that's now a clear image. Now, at the moment, when I'm pinching and zooming, it's pinching and zooming the background because I'm on the second layer. But if I just touch on this one to make it the first layer and then sort of move about, I can actually move that character about there. If I just save that image, that's in my camera roll. So again, this idea of app smashing, going from good to being sort of great. So if I just save that, oh, do I want to print it? There, save image. So now, what about how am I going to app smash that? Well, great app called Halftone 2. Because if you're doing something like superheroes, the kids that maybe into all like the Marvel comics and this sort of stuff, that was me just having to go early on, but let's do one sort of live. So go on add. So I've got my sort of sheet of paper here. I need to get my, let's go with that one. And I pick that image that I've just sort of got there. So I drop that in. Good. And now think about sort of in terms of comic strips. I want the bams and the kapows and all this sort of stuff there. So can you see sort of about the sort of third one in the middle bit down there? I can go on to bams. I can add all these sort of things in there so I can make it look like it's a real superhero bit. But then I can maybe have a little bit of text sort on there. So if I go on to the speech bubble one. Now again, for most kids, they will probably type this up. But let's give this a go again. Showing voice to text. I'm sure I might not get 100% of the words right, but it's sort of shown for those sort of children, sort of accessibility. So I press that microphone button. New York City is in danger, but don't worry, Batman will save the day! Exclamation mark. New York City is in danger, but don't worry, Batman will save the day. I should have probably put a comma in there as well. But you get the idea sort of there that, in terms of making things accessible, children don't have to be able to type. If I now save that, so share, you'd see it talks about half-tone dots. This is where it gives it that like dotty style that actually makes it look like a comic strip. So if I save that, save image, now go back into my camera roll. Nope, that was you lot. There was the original picture. So you think this is almost like a three-part app smash. So you would have the camera app to take the original photo, green screen by doing that in the background, and then swipe along, There you go, you've actually got sort of, you know, something that actually looks like a real comic strip. How easy is that? A little bit of app smashing. But it takes it from being good to being great, not just using green screen by doing, but app smashing it with sort of half-tone 2 app as well. 5 minutes, let's get through some stuff. It's great that I'm presenting myself, so there's nobody to pull us off the stage, so I can actually do a little minute or two more if I want to, sort of on there. So, Chatterpix Kids, probably one of my favorite free apps.
Duck, duck, moose.
Now, on the surface of things, this would be like an app.
Welcome to Chatterpix.
Thank you very much. On the surface of things, this is an app that you would think would be for maybe like early years. But actually, what I've discovered is some of the best apps will work with children of all ages. I actually used this app with sort of some A-level students in the UK a few weeks ago because they were doing adverts around sort of like trying to like sell cars. So what happens on Chatterpix Kids, basically you draw a line. That line becomes a mouth and it can talk. So it's brilliant for bringing any inanimate object to life. So I've done things where maybe the children go out and take like a photograph of the tree in the school grounds, and then suddenly the tree's talking about what happens when the children go home, the nocturnal animals that come out at night and so on. It's also a lovely one to use with the younger children. So normally I'd go on take photo, and would press the camera button, but I'm just going to cheat and press the sort of the gallery button there in the bottom corner. So if I just go into that 808 training folder again, definitely need to tidy up these photos, lesson learned. So what about if you are doing something like healthy eating, or you know, pictures, you can bring kids' own pictures to life, but I'm just going to pick that apple. You can see it flashing next in the top right-hand corner. Even again, if a child couldn't read sort of next, these are the ones, guys, where we need a bit of sound coming up in a second. I'm sure they're going to realize that we need that next button. So all I now do is draw a line where I want the mouth to be. So maybe something like that. And you'll notice that as soon as I've got the line drawn, we've got a microphone sort of button there and bring that to life.
Record in 3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, I'm an apple. I'm very healthy for you. You could eat me as one of your 5 a day. Hello, I'm an apple. I'm very healthy for you. You could eat me as one of your 5 a day. But again, we are the powerful bit. It's not about bringing an apple to life. Think about all the different ways, all the different characters, all the different things you could bring to life. Sort of there. So that was Chatterpix Kids. Think about probably over the last, 10 years or so, we've heard the word multimedia presentations, and we're probably default to one product by sort of Microsoft. Great for us as adults, not necessarily always the best for a kid. How many times did we spend like 7 weeks making something on there? What about something like Shadow Puppet EDU? Completely free app. This to me is multimedia presentations for Key Stage 1, etc. Multimedia, more than one media, voice and text, sort of normally as we go sort of along here. I'll just go into my camera. Where have I got? Come on. I made a folder called BETT 2020, there it is there. So what about, say, you've been planting seeds? That would normally be easier for the kids. It would probably be the last 4 pictures on the camera roll. So first of all, I put some soil in the plant pot, then I added some seeds, then I watered them, then I stuck them on the windowsill. So now what you'll see at the bottom is I've got a start button. And if I was doing it with the kids, I would probably start, press pause, move on to the next slide, and so on. I'm just going to go through in one go today. So press the start button here at the bottom. This is my video all about how to plant seeds. First, take your plant pot and add some soil into the plant pot using your trowel. Now get your packet of seeds, sprinkle the seeds on top of the soil, and push them down into the soil with your fingers. Now take your watering can and water the soil until it is nice and wet. Finally, put your plant pot onto the windowsill, where hopefully it will get lots of light and warmth, and your seeds will grow into a nice plant. Save that, press play. This is my video all about how to plant seeds. First, take your plant pot and add some soil. That is Key Stage 1 multimedia presentations, not using sort of products by the big companies, you know. Keep that for when they're a little bit older or for our own personal life. I've got sort of time to maybe do sort of 2. There. What about mathematics? It's not always the easiest to sort of bring maths into other parts of the curriculum, isn't it? We can do it with literacy, but not sort of so much maths. What about a great app like Foldify? So if you think about sort of that abstract concept between a 2D net and a 3D shape, we need to be more practical with children so that they can actually understand that. Because they're going to get asked these sort of questions on Key Stage 2 SATs papers and so on. You know, which of these faces on the net would be the top and so on. So if I press that add button in the top corner, you can see I get lots of different 3D shapes. Some of them are basic 3D shapes, other ones down at the bottom, a little bit more creative. You can make your own containers, you can make your own almost like cartoons characters. I'll just keep it nice and easy and I'll go with a cube. So think about linking this to maybe games that children play. What if they were Minecraft sort of fans? If I touch on what I call the Guess Who face at the top, you know, I have lots of different sort of styles that I have in here. If I keep going along, this one looks a little bit Minecrafty. So if I drag that down onto a face here and move it along, on the left-hand side, I've got the 3D shape. I can see how the 2D net is reflected in the 2D sort of shape in there. I could sort of stick some eyes on and so on. So if you're a Minecraft fan or your kids are, you'll know like sort of Steve from Minecraft and so on. So that's one way. But you'll notice there on the left-hand side, it says photos. I've got the camera. I've got the album again. So actually, I can put whatever I want on these faces. So again, think about the point and the purpose to your internet research. You know, use the internet to research the Victorians and make a foldified cube to show what you consider to be the 6 most important inventions of the Victorian period. Or use the camera button to take photographs of the children on the table and make almost like a dice where you roll the dice and that's the talking partner. So you're going to be with you, they like sort of do your reading activity, whatever it might be. Again, we are the powerful bit. Think about how you could use an app like that. Think about sort of that children design their own packaging. You know, these print, you know, as teachers, the print with a good sized tab. How many times have we printed out a worksheet to do something like this? And like the little tab is about that big. And all that children discover is that Pritt sticker sticky. They don't discover anything about faces, edges, or vertices, and so on. And I'm going to end with one final app because that's got a big fat 0 on there now, but nobody's dragging us off quite yet. Morphobooth, one of my favorite sort of apps, and a little bit like sort of Chatterpix that we've seen before. It's about sort of bringing a photograph to life. So think about maybe like something like a historical figure, maybe a character from a book that you're reading. So if I go touch here to choose a photo, go into that training folder again, and I think we've got a photo of Henry VIII in here. So that was just a photo I found online. I pressed done. I've now got to pinch and zoom to make this white head sit on top of the one of the photograph. If it's wearing a hat, don't worry, just put the white line on the top roughly where the hat would be. We then pinch and zoom to get the eyes on. Same with the nose. It's always really interesting where children think a nose ends up sort of right in the middle of the forehead. Obviously, the more time you spend doing this, the better it's going to be. But that's not bad. Press finish. Look at that image now with the eyes moving, the cheeks and everything else. But the powerful bit there, we've got a red record button in the bottom right, in the bottom left-hand corner, whatever press that. Hello, I'm Henry VIII. I got married 6 times. I just couldn't decide which wife I liked the best. I hope you've all enjoyed my presentation at BETT's show this afternoon. Please do follow me on Twitter at Animate Educate, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your BETT show. Let's have a little play. Hello, I'm Henry VIII. I got married 6 times. I just couldn't decide which wife I liked the best. I hope you've all enjoyed my presentation at BETT's show this afternoon. Please do follow me on Twitter at Animate Educate, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your BETT show. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Martin Bailey. Thank you very much. I'll go into host mode now and sort of thank myself. Thank you, Martin. That was very, very good. But no, please do come up and see me. I'll stick my Twitter handle back on the screen again. I am hanging about for about sort of 5-10 minutes or so before the start of the next session. Happy to sort of talk to you. I do visit schools all over the world. I've got a full class set of iPads and other bits of technology, so I can come and do workshops with your pupils. I can deliver staff training, whatever it might be. But more than anything, I just love communicating, connecting with other educators. So whether it be Twitter, email, whatever you want. I would love to keep in touch with you, love to work with you again. But like I say, I am hanging about, so let's carry on the conversations. Thank you all. You've been a fantastic audience. I appreciate you coming out on a Saturday. Thank you very much. Thank you.